3 panelists, but you don't see that the third one is there. She's going to be with us virtually. Actually, she's Bridget Bucardo Rivera. She's a former student of mine, just as Justin and Katie were former students of mine. Bridget is now working with Catholic Relief Services in Zambia, and so she's going to participate in this conference through a call that we're placing in Zambia. We tried Skype last week, and she broke up too much, so we're just going to go with the phone call. And some of you may have heard our conversation with her a little earlier. She's alive and well and ready to join us. But let me tell you a little bit about the Center for Peace and Justice Education. It was founded in 1986, and its purpose is to provide students the opportunity to study and critically examine some of the most pressing issues, moral issues of our day. Its courses are drawn from across the disciplines in the university and also across colleges in the university. So we have a professor in the School of Law teaching a course on immigration, a sociologist teaching a course on criminal justice, an ethicist teaching a course on war and morality. We draw students from across the colleges in the university as well, across disciplines and across colleges. So, for example, Justin is a graduate of the School of Business, Katie is a graduate of the School of Arts and Sciences, and Bridget is a graduate of the School of Arts and Sciences, but also but graduated with a degree in economics. Our students can concentrate in peace and justice, or they can minor in peace and justice. The center publishes an academic journal called the Journal for Peace and Justice Studies. It's recognized in the field. And we also have student chapters. We have a chapter of Amnesty International, a student chapter of Bread for the World. Katie was the leader of our student chapter of Bread for the World. And in fact, Bread for the World recognized us at its 30th anniversary because we had one of the most active chapters in the student chapters in the United States, and largely due to the leadership of our students. We have a very active student organization, very active chapter of STAND, that stands for Students Take Action Now on Darfur, Villanovans for Life, Villanova Environmental Group, and others. Each year, the center gives a Peace Award. It's the Adela Dwyer St. Thomas of Villanova Peace Award. You saw some of the framed posters that we had out there. Desmond Tutu was one of the awardees. Who else do we have there? Desmond Tutu, Jane Golden, who started the Mural Arts Project in Philadelphia. Who else do we? I can't remember the others, but Judy Wicks, who started the White Dog Cafe. Sister Helen Prejean, you would know. She was one of our awardees. About our students from the center, I really believe that they are Villanova's brightest. And I'm prejudiced, but I'm certain they're Villanova's brightest. They're young men and women who want to make a difference with their lives. They want to make the world a better place. They have a hunger for knowledge. They don't simply take courses to take courses. They take courses because this is these issues are burning issues for them. And they learn from the courses that they take. I always say that it's almost as if they digest what they've learned. Our courses feed their interest, their intellect, and our courses help to set them on course and strengthens their resolve to do good with their lives, to change the world, to make it a better place, to make it more just, more compassionate, and more peaceful. Many of our students study abroad, and many of them will study in poorer nations, in Cameroon, in Nigeria, in Cambodia, in South Africa. Our students also do service. They do service in the United States and also abroad, in Peru, in South Africa, in Nicaragua. And many of them also volunteer after graduation with the Augustinian Volunteer Corps, with the Peace Corps, with Teach for America, with the Jesuit Volunteer Corps. We have a number of Fulbright scholars, and our students pursue a variety of professions. In law, in nursing, they work on Capitol Hill, medicine, etc. For me, having taught students like Katie and Justin and Bridget, they energize me. They give me hope. They give me reason. They give me purpose to continue doing the work that I do. I'm very honored to be part of their lives and to be able to contribute to their futures. And many of my students, large numbers of my students, continue to keep in touch with me, and that's very reassuring for me. It keeps me going. Now to move on to my second hat, which is coordinator of the Center for Peace, which is not the coordinator of the Center for Peace and Justice, but I'm a coordinator of the University Partnership with Catholic Relief Services. I help to broker that relationship with Catholic Relief Services. Catholic Relief Services is the official humanitarian agency of the U.S. Catholic community. It's the official overseas humanitarian agency of the Catholic community. It alleviates suffering and provides assistance to people in need in more than 100 countries worldwide. Without regard to race, religion, or nationality, it is the third largest private international relief and development agency. And I remember once I gave that speech, and sure enough, a faculty member in the audience said, well, who are the first two? And so it's CARE and World Vision. Catholic Relief is the third. It provides relief, emergency relief, community health, HIV/AIDS programming, food aid, agricultural programming, microcredit, microlending, safety net programs, and peace building. So in 2005, the university signed a memorandum of understanding with Catholic Relief Services, and we agreed that we would collaborate with them to deepen our institution's missions. So to collaborate in the area of education, research, service, and advocacy. What Catholic Relief has provided for us at no charge, we could never pay for. We have speakers coming in from overseas. It's overseas staff will come through the university and speak to our students in the classrooms and also lectures. Sister Pauline Silva-Acayo was here last year. She was working with CRS in Uganda, and her work was that of reintegrating the child soldiers into the community. You know, how could you ever pay for someone like that who can share our experience? Huma Safi, another CRF Afghanistan field staff, who's been working in Afghanistan to establish women's schools and also small enterprises, business enterprises with women. Robert Makuna, who is the advisor to the Kenyan government on HIV/AIDS treatment. Kevin Hartigan is the South Asian country representative, and he had just come back from, it was right after the tsunami. He had come to Catholic Relief's headquarters, its international headquarters in Baltimore, and he stopped over at Villanova to talk to our students about relief and recovery after the tsunami. We've also worked with CRS on a number of major symposia in the university. We are having a major conference on November 8th. You're all welcome to come, and it's going to be on the global water crisis, conflict, and cooperation. The water is a hotly contested, as you know, and is a source of conflict. CRS has made a major commitment to integrate peace building into all of its water programming. The president of Catholic Relief Services, Ken Hackett, is going to be the plenary speaker in the evening, and he's going to be talking about Haiti, recovery and rebuilding in Haiti, the challenges of doing that. And the title of his speech is, Haiti, Let's Get It Right This Time. Last semester in the spring, we had a major symposium on the economic crisis and the common good, looked at locally as well as globally. We had another major symposium on fair trade, and that was a symposium that pulled together faculty and CRS staff who were addressing fair trade, looking at it from the perspective of agriculture, the environment, business, et cetera. So in all of these conferences, we try to pull on faculty from the different colleges of the university, also CRS staff who are working in the field on these issues, and get them in conversation with one another. This has not happened in the university before, and this is something I'm very, very proud that we're doing. The law school held a major conference on the Iraqi refugee crisis, and that was held at the National Press Club in DC. Lawyers were invited from across the country to be present, and CRS staff were there to engage them in conversation about this crisis. Also, our law school, working with CRS, held a major conference on human trafficking. I mean, I can go on, and I have many things I could say, but maybe I'm going to end with this. I think that what CRS, this partnership with CRS, what it has done, it has made the global reality, especially the reality of global poverty, more present to our students. It gives our students, it gives it a human face. the students begin to see that this is a crisis that is requiring, it's a moral crisis, it's demanding action on their part, that they are part of this global society, they have responsibility to contribute to this global society to reduce the needless human suffering, the needless death in our world. I think this relationship with CRS inspires our students to greatness, to goodness and to greatness. We also, every time we have a CRS speaker coming through, I try to get that speaker to linger a little bit, to talk with students who are more and more students are interested in careers in international development, so that they get a sense of what languages do you need, where do I need to go to graduate school, what kind of experience do I need, where can I find a job? So this relationship with CRS has been invaluable. How we're going to proceed. I'm going to introduce each speaker, our three panelists, and I'm going to ask you to hold your questions to the end. I'm also going to distribute index cards to you if you would like to ask a question of Bridget Ricardo Rivera in Zambia. I'll have to speak the questions to her through the computer, okay, because she can't hear you in the audience. So I hope that's fine with you. All right, let's get started. I was going to say any questions, but... All right, we'll start with Justin Knabb. Justin graduated from the School of Business in 2005. He is now Vice President and Operations Manager at Specialty Design and Manufacturing Company based in Reading, Pennsylvania. He represents the third generation of leadership in his family-run corporation, which includes a custom machining and fabrication business and home building products supply business. Justin was also part of the original leadership team that founded an NGO, Water for Westlaw, which continues to today. It's a nonprofit organization that provides funding and engineering support for the construction of potable water systems in the impoverished region of Westlaw, Nicaragua. While a student at Villanova, Justin was his class commencement speaker, and I remember that day. I was very, very proud of you.
Thank you.
Yes, Justin. He served as associate director of the Villanovan, our newspaper, studied at the Università Bocconi, thank you, in Milan, Italy, and was active in campus ministry. And Justin's going to talk to us a little bit. He's the co-founder of Water for Westlaw, so I've asked him if he would give us a good sense of what Water for Westlaw is all about. Justin?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Toten.
Pleasure, Justin.
Well, it's an honor to be here, and can you hear me okay, I hope? I'm proud to have graduated from this great university. You know, the people that matriculate here, they're deeply compassionate, they're gracious, and people here take action. And our charity, Water for Westlaw, is a perfect testament to that. I'll also say real quick, I'm excited to be the youngest panelist here at this summit. I just hope the University Development Office doesn't start calling me. I hope they give me a few years to have some professional success. Thank you. Since our students at Villanova first started going to Westlaw, Nicaragua in 2002, hundreds of students have gotten involved since. We've devoted hundreds, possibly thousands together of hours to this cause for one of the most basic human rights. You know, it's not until this year that the UN finally declared water to be a fundamental human right. We've been devoted to this cause since 2002, and the community that we're supporting is a deeply impoverished community, one of the poorest towns in the second poorest country in this hemisphere, Westlaw, Nicaragua. And so it started as just an effort to provide funding for one community system down there after students went down for a spring break trip, has blossomed into this NGO now that at this point we've raised $300,000. Our goal in 2 or 3 years or so is to get to the $500,000 mark. What started as the hope to fund one system has now expanded into 13 community systems. And even for me, what just started as kind of a simple hope to get involved over one break has now turned into an experience where when I graduated college, I didn't want to jump right into industry, so I spent a year of my time trying to grow this cause on the West Coast out in San Diego, talked to high schools around that region and Rotary clubs and business professionals to try to grow this. And what I thought might just be one volunteer year has now been this effort that continues to take up a lot of my nights after, working all day in the business. So it's something I'm just so passionate about, and I'm going to keep fighting for. A bit about what we do, too. So our systems are gravity-fed systems. It's a pretty mountainous region, and we're trying to build sustainable systems that are going to last for a lifetime for these people and many generations. Keep the costs down. We work with Villanova engineers to do that. And we rely on the engineering school of Villanova for the technical expertise to continue to improve these systems. And not just with the engineering school. A great thing about our project is, again, it just started as an effort of a few committed students, and it's grown into this incredible cross-functional organization where nurses and engineers are heading down there on Saturday to look at some new systems. I'm a business student, and I want to get involved and help raise money and provide my accounting background to this. So Business Without Borders has been an organization that's gotten involved too. A whole bunch of liberal arts students are on our board, and they help with all the grant writing and the communications, the Spanish communications we need to keep this project running. So it's really, our project, as I said, it's a testament to the generosity of this university and so many people working together to provide clean drinking water to these people. And I feel like the purpose of our organization essentially answers this challenge, which is how do you make this relevant, this challenge that these people have down in Nicaragua to not get clean drinking water. How do you make this relevant to people in this auditorium and across the country and the world? How do you bring their stories to these people for all of us to take action and to give to this cause and to remedy this problem? I mean, we're focusing so hard on this one community, and it's a ton of work. We can't do it alone. And just figure, I mean, there are 900 million people around the world that do not have access to clean water. So we're so focused on communicating this, and that's really what drives my effort every day, and I think that's why we've succeeded over the last few years, because we've communicated that well. It's a little easier communicating this to, say, the professors and the students that are involved with this project, because they've seen it firsthand. As I said, students are going down on Saturday. But we know the stories of people like a woman named Nelly Chavara. This woman's 39 years old. She has 4 children. And we've been with her on these mornings when she used to beat the sun when she wakes up and walk a kilometer down to the stream, which is already highly polluted from fecal matter and other waste materials, to get this water because it's the best she can find, and then to get these gallons and put it on her shoulders and walk back to her family, tripping along the way, to see her calloused feet and just how hard this is for her and all these people that we've met. These are the people we fight for every day, and a lot of people from Villanova have met people like Nellie. So I've been the treasurer for the last few years for Water for Islam, and I've had the pleasure of seeing other people start to really get what we're about. For example, one of my most moving donations that I opened up in an envelope last year was from a school bus driver up in New Jersey, and he wrote us a letter and he said, I don't have much money to give you personally, but I've heard one of your volunteers speak the other year, and I was moved by this cause, and I've spent every day over this last school year walking up and down my school bus and trying to find loose change that has fallen out of the children's pockets. And his check totaled $47.11, and I was moved to tears when I opened it. It was just like, here's this man that cares so much about this, and he spent a whole year essentially looking for this money to give to us. And it's people like him that make me want to keep fighting, and I want to keep meeting more people like that. So we really have been a grassroots organization, going to high schools to give speeches, like I said. I'm really hoping over the next few years we can take it to another level, to meet some people that might have the financial means to help us really break through, to cross the tipping point, and to really help us mature as an organization. This work is very difficult. It takes hours and hours of time. We spend lots of time writing grant applications that are never quite answered. I spent a lot of time writing handwritten notes to donors that sometimes aren't answered. a lot of times they are, and that's great, but you know, it's just something I'm going to keep fighting for. And on the ground, you know, like our engineers going down over this next week, they're going to be hopping on mules and traversing through some very rugged terrain to get to these, a lot of these people in this region. It's very rugged terrain. They have to take machetes with them and cut through the forest. But again, it's all worth it. You know, we're doing a lot of things. We're trying to do this right. For example, we really believe the saying that you don't just fish for a man, but you teach him how to fish. So every single system we've built thus far, all 12, the community members have built it themselves. So we're going down there, we're providing the supervision and the engineering expertise. But here we are enrolling the community in this effort, and they're working together to finance the maintenance and to coordinate each other's schedules to make this happen. So there's a whole other element in that way. There's also another element that we're reforesting the region. People would burn down the woodland to make room for their cattle. A lot of this is affecting the water system at the source. So not only do we have to start reforesting the region, but you know, we're educating the people on this. Also, you know, good hygiene and other health considerations for them. So down on the ground, we're working very hard to build these systems in the right way and to use the best materials possible, and also keep in mind the larger scope of what we're doing. So I just want to give you a quick perspective here too. This is a picture we took last year of really what this water is like for these people. Just imagine, you know, think of all the water you've had today, from your shower to your laundry to what we've had today at lunch. And this is really the best that they have. And we're just so proud every time that we can erect a system. To see the children in a community at their school not have to walk a kilometer to go get water, but to have an unlimited supply such as this right there at their school, and to think of the larger economic impact and how these students can focus on their studies and not have to walk for water, how mothers can take care of their families and not have to walk for water, and people can go to work and not have to walk for water. So I just want to conclude with this quick story. Not only are people like this bus driver up in New Jersey very generous, but after Hurricane Katrina hit, the parish of Waslala sent us a check and a letter, and we opened it up. We weren't sure, we're not sure what it would be. They also wrote us a letter saying, as you know, we do not have much. In fact, you know, these people, on average, they earn about $2 a day. They said, we don't have much, but we're deeply sorry about the impact of Katrina, and we got a collection together at Mass, and we're sending you $90, and you're in our thoughts and our prayers at this time. So it goes both ways, and you know, I believe that love knows no borders or no distance, and I hope for all of us that, you know, our love and the work that we do spans the globe and maybe even the deepest jungles of Nicaragua. So thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Our second panelist is Catherine Tobin. Katie is a refugee officer for the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services within the Department of Homeland Security. She interviews refugees in locations worldwide and makes final determinations on their eligibility to resettle in the United States. She's processed refugees from countries such as Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, China, Sudan, Colombia, and Cuba. Prior to her current position, Katie clerked for Senator Kennedy, Edward Kennedy, on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Subcommittee for Immigration, Refugees, and Border Security. Among other issues, she assisted with comprehensive immigration reform legislation. She also clerked for Senator Dick Durbin and the DOJ Immigration Court in Arlington, Virginia. Katie graduated from Villanova in 2004 with a BA in History and a minor in Peace and Justice Studies. She received her JD from Catholic University of America, Columbus School of Law in 2008, and is licensed in the state of Illinois. Katie, please.
Well, thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here and to be in such good company. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah? Okay. Great. Before I begin, as Dr. Toten said, I'm a refugee officer with the Department of Homeland Security, and I just have to say that my remarks today are in my own capacity and don't represent the views of my agency or the U.S. government. I've personally been interested in refugee issues and social justice for quite a while. I think similar to Justin, I was first exposed to these issues when I was a student at Villanova. People like Dr. Toten and the Center for Peace and Justice Studies really opened my eyes to a lot of things going on in the world that I didn't know about. When I graduated from Villanova, I decided that I wanted to do a year of service, and I decided to work with an organization called Annunciation House down on the U.S.-Mexican border. And the way Annunciation House works is they basically run emergency shelters for immigrants and refugees that have nowhere else to stay. And they ask that the volunteers live in the shelters with the immigrants and refugees so that we get to understand them better on a personal level and the plight that their experiences that they've had. I found this experience to be very powerful, and I learned a lot from the refugees and immigrants that I shared a house with. Probably one of the biggest lessons I learned is that I realized that for almost everyone I met, really making the decision to come to the U.S. was a last resort. And most people would much rather be in their home country with their families and their communities. And it's a real sacrifice for them to leave and seek refuge somewhere else. I also saw that people that seek refuge in a foreign country without status are often vulnerable to exploitation and abuse. And since I was going to law school the next year, I decided that it would be a good use of my degree to try to help these people that are displaced and vulnerable. Going to law school in Washington, D.C., I had the opportunity to learn a little bit more about the role the U.S. government plays in trying to help refugees around the world. As Dr. Toten said, I was able to work for Senator Kennedy, who, as many of you might know, was he was a champion for refugees and immigrants during his tenure in Congress. He actually authored the Refugee Act of 1980, which just had its 30th anniversary this year. And that was in response to the refugee crisis going on in Vietnam at the time. And when the program started and they started U.S. refugee processing, it was primarily Vietnamese refugees and refugees from the former Soviet Union. And over the last 30 years, the program's really grown. And today, we adjudicate refugee claims from over 60 countries in the world. So after law school, I was really excited to be able to join this U.S. response to refugee crises as a refugee officer. Just a little bit about how the U.S. refugee program works is every year, the president, in consultation with Congress, makes an allocation of how many refugees we're going to admit into the country. For the last 2 years, that's been 80,000, and that was actually a 20,000 person increase from the past because of just how many people have been displaced from the war in Iraq in recent years. After that allocation is determined, then we work really closely with organizations like UNHCR and other NGOs in the field that work with refugees in the camps and wherever they're seeking refuge. And they refer them to us, refugees they think would meet the U.S. criteria to come and be resettled here. Then they send a team of officers, such as myself, out, and we interview them and adjudicate their claims. And if we approve the case, then they are able to come to the U.S. and assigned to a refugee resettlement organization like Catholic Charities, who will help them try to assimilate into U.S. society. I think an important thing to mention, sometimes overlooked, is what makes somebody a refugee. Now, the U.S. legal definition is a refugee is somebody who flees their country because of past persecution or because they have a fear of future persecution on account of their race, religion, ethnicity, political opinion, nationality, or membership in a particular social group. I always have trouble remembering all of them. However, like I said, that's kind of a legal construct. And really, a refugee is also somebody who flees their country because of civil unrest, like gang violence in Latin America, or natural disasters, or even poverty. The UNHCR says that last year there were about 15 million refugees in the world. But again, that's that kind of specific definition of a refugee. If you count all displaced people in the world, it's about 42 million. So some say that the U.S. should be admitting more refugees than we are, or we should be expanding the definition. And I think that we maybe should consider some of these things. But one thing I feel like I've learned both with my work with the Refugee Corps and you know, just other doing break trips and other development opportunities is that really, until we improve the conditions in the countries where these people are fleeing from, there will always be more displaced people in the world than there are refugee solutions. So I think that's really where refugees kind of tie into the whole panel discussion today on social justice and economic development. Because really, human displacement is a symptom of some of these bigger issues. And I really give so much credit to people like Justin and Bridget, who we'll hear from later, and people that are really working on the ground level to improve the quality of life for people, because really that's the only way that will truly eradicate this phenomenon of human displacement in the world. It occurred to me as I was kind of thinking about all this that really since my time down on the border, I've been in the business of emergency response. So whether I was offering a bed to immigrants at Annunciation House or offering resettlement to refugees on behalf of the U.S. government, I'm really in the business of responding to the symptoms, not necessarily the causes of the injustices and inequities in this world. So I was thinking about it, and I was like, I would really love to be put out of business someday. The work I do, you know, would love it if no one had to do this work. But until that time, you know, I think it's really crucial that we pay attention to refugees. You know, we can find them in any U.S. town or city, as well as every continent in the world. One thing that people are often surprised with is the fact that as a refugee officer, I actually work for the Department of Homeland Security. One reason that it's important for us to pay attention to refugees is that having 42 million people displaced and vulnerable in the world makes all of us less safe. It's not a good thing. But that's just one reason to pay attention to refugees. When I was working at Annunciation House, we were always taught as volunteers that these people that were forced to flee their land and to find refuge in a foreign land are really, in a biblical sense, the strangers in our midst. And we are all called to welcome the stranger. So I think I'll end there. But
wow, amazing. Thank you, Katie. Now, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ask you to introduce Bridget while I try to make the call. All right? Would you mind? Okay.
sure.
Here you go.
Okay. Okay, Bridget Bucardo Rivera is in the Business and Strategy Management for Catholic Relief Services in Zambia. In this capacity, she is responsible for designing the strategic planning process, developing a growth strategy, coordinating new project and proposal development, and identifying and developing new funding relations. Mrs. Ricardo Rivera received her Bachelor of Art degree in Economics and Honors with a concentration in Peace and Justice in 2002. She received her Master's of Arts degree in International Development in 2008. In May through August of 2008, Ms. Rivera served as a Client Assessment Research Fellow for FINCA International in Nicaragua. As a Forum Catholic Relief Service Fellow, she worked with Savings Lending Microfinance Group in El Salvador between January and July of 2009. And as a Catholic Relief Service Development Fellow, she coordinated a $10 million agro enterprise project benefiting 7,000 small producers in Nicaragua from July 2009 through March 2010.
Okay, this is Bridget Bucardo Rivera in Zambia. Okay, Bridget, tell me when to do the slides. You want to talk about yourself first for a minute?
Yes, let me give just a brief introduction, and then I'll tell you when we should go into the slides.
Okay, I can follow directions.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
It's only afternoon.
I guess it's good afternoon for you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Okay, about how many people are there, just so I can get an idea?
Oh, about 300.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much for having me on the panel. I'll try to speak slowly so that you can catch what I'm saying, because I know you can't see me. But first, before I go into a little brief presentation I have, let me just tell you a little bit about how going to Villanova led me to where I am now, how my experience at Villanova shaped where I am now. When I actually began Villanova, really all I knew about what I wanted to do is that I liked helping people and that I liked international affairs, mostly traveling. I knew I liked to travel, so I figured that translated to international affairs. But during my time at Villanova, I would say really allowed me to do three main things in relation to global development. And I want to tell you about those three things. The first one is that it allowed me to be exposed. It exposed me from my first year to global poverty issues. My first year at Villanova, I took a mission trip to Oaxaca, Mexico. And that was really my first exposure to global poverty, and you can hear about it, but that really allowed me to see it and to meet people face to face who were dealing with it. So that was the first thing. It exposed me to global poverty and global development issues. After that, I became interested in these issues, and being at Villanova really allowed me to learn about global poverty from both an academic and a faith perspective, through peace and justice courses, economic development courses, and I wound up becoming an economics major through that exploration. So to be exposed, to learn, and then finally to discern. Being at Villanova allowed me to really look at these are the issues I've learned about, I've seen them firsthand, and what does that mean for my career path? And being at Villanova really allowed me to look at what role I could play in global development. I learned about Catholic social teaching, and I also learned about Catholic Relief Services, CRS. I took an exploratory visit, actually with Dr. Toten, my third year at Villanova, and when I saw CRS and I learned about their programming, it really brought everything together for me. It really made me realize that the issues that I had become so passionate about, there was something that I could do about them, and there was an organization that was doing it from the same motivation and reasons that I was interested in it. And so by the end of my time at Villanova, I realized that CRS was really the organization that I wanted to work for. And there were several steps I needed to get there, including gaining international experience, getting another language, learning another language, and also getting a graduate degree. But that was 8 years ago, and finally, 8 years later, I finished my graduate degree and gained all of that experience, and since January of 2009, I began working with CRS. So that brings me to where I am now. I am currently located in Zambia. I work for Catholic Relief Services Zambia. My position is Business Development and Strategy Manager for CRS Zambia. It's one of CRS's larger programs. It's about $25 million a year budget for Zambia. And my role here is basically to coordinate the proposal development for all the funding that we apply for, from the U.S. government, from the Global Fund, from private donors, like the Gates Foundation, and all different donors. And I get the fun job of applying for the funding, but also seeing the money get put to such good use on the ground when we win the funding. So it's something I really enjoy. And we had a number of projects here in Zambia. Our biggest projects are HIV and AIDS, orphans and vulnerable children, and food insecurity projects. But I want to highlight one of our smaller but really exciting projects, just to give you an idea of one of the things that CRS does to address global issues. And I want to preface this by saying I'm not a technical expert in this area, but I have had a chance to learn about this, and I think you'll enjoy hearing about it as well. What I'm going to talk about is what we call silk, and it's related to microfinance. I'm sure many of you have heard about microfinance. Basically, what microfinance means is financial services to poor people. Usually small loans with interest that's charged, and people use them for a variety of reasons, often to start small businesses. So we can start the PowerPoint now, Dr. Toten.
Okay, ready to go.
Okay. So this first slide is, you'll see it's the title slide, and there's a picture, and that picture is a picture of several savings and internal lending communities in Zambia. So savings and internal lending communities is CRS's approach to microfinance. And in this presentation, it's very brief, but I want to show you and explain to you why, what it is and how it's a bit different than traditional microfinance. So this picture is actually a picture of several silk groups. When you hear me say silk, it's that Savings and Internal Lending Communities, or silk. And this is a picture of several silk groups in one village in Zambia. Next slide, please.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, so what is silk? Basically, silk is a self-selected group of people who contribute money into a fund. So in any particular village here in Zambia where CRS may promote silk, the people will decide if they want to form a group, and they will self-select themselves who they want to be in their group, and they each contribute money into a fund. The money is then made available for small loans to group members, and when the group members take out these loans, they pay back the loans with interest, and this causes the fund to grow. And at the end of each cycle, which is usually approximately a year, each member receives their savings back plus the return on their interest. So essentially, the silk group is a bank. It's a village group that becomes their own bank. Next slide, please.
Okay.
So what are the tools needed for silk operation? Well, one of the real advantages to silk is that it requires so little funding to start up. These are the pictures of what is needed to start a silk group. You'll see at the upper left side is a box, and that is the box that's used by groups to keep their money safe. On the lower left hand, you'll see record books. Those are the books that each silk group uses to record their savings and their loans. In the middle, you'll see 2 locks and 3 keys. Those are for the box, and there's 3 keys because 3 different group members are given a key, and there's several different locks. And the reason behind that is to prevent any fraud or anyone taking money between meetings. It promotes total transparency, so the box is only opened when the group meeting is in session. On the lower right, there are 4 bowls, and those bowls are really to help groups count the money out at their meetings. Bear in mind that most Silk group members are from rural villages. They have very low levels of education, maybe 3rd or 4th grade, and so counting can be a challenge. So the bowls are to facilitate them counting their money, the loans and the savings. And the picture on the top right is actually of a Silk group meeting. You can see the box is open, they're counting the money, giving out a loan, and you'll see one person is actually recording everything, all the transactions that are going on. Next slide.
Okay.
Okay, so one of the main things that Silk groups do is save. One of the interesting things is a lot of poor people save that don't have any money. Isn't that the point? But the interesting thing is most poor people are already saving. It's just usually in the form of either food or a goat or a chicken, livestock, things like that. So Silk really promotes that idea of saving, and the benefits of that are really to increase household economic and social security, to provide them access to financing when they need to take out, when they need to call upon a fund to, for life, things that happen in life that they need to pay for, and it reduces their vulnerability. Next slide.
Okay.
The second thing that Silk groups do is lending. As I mentioned before, the money that's saved in the fund is lent out, and the loans are subject to group approval. The group is essentially their own bank, and so they decide which group members and how much they're going to loan to the group members based on how much they think that they could pay back. And the group decides what the interest rate that they're going to charge on all loans is, and the interest that's earned through these loans increases the group fund. Next slide.
Okay.
Many Silk groups also decide to have what's called a social fund. Contribute to a separate pot of money, let's say. They keep the money separate, and this is money that they provide interest-free to group members in need of immediate help. As all of us know, things happen in life that are unexpected. A funeral, your car breaks down, unexpected expenses. And these expenses are especially difficult for poor people to handle because they really have no money to call upon when someone gets sick or they need to pay for medicine for their child or school fees. And so the social fund is really to be able to loan money to members within the group and charge them an interest-free loan because it is an emergency situation. And as I said, those monies are kept separate. Next slide.
Okay.
And graduation. Normally a Silk group cycle will last 8 to 12 months. And at that point, at the end of the cycle, the money will be divided based on the individual's contribution. So of course, they'll receive a certain percentage of the profit or the interest based on what they put into the fund. At the end of that time, the group may decide to reform, and it might be the same group members or different group members because, as I mentioned earlier, the group is self-selective. Next slide.
Okay.
Okay, this is our last slide, and basically why Silk, and why has CRS chosen this as our preferred model of microfinance to promote and to work with communities on? Well, basically, if you compare it to traditional microfinance and microfinance institutions, normally poor people will take out loans and they're charged an interest that then when they pay back the loan, that interest goes to the microfinance organization or the microfinance bank. With Silk, the interest stays with the group. So the group, the interest that they charge on their loans stays within the community and really benefits the people instead of going to some organization. It also increases financial assets. Group members learn how to save, and they also gain financial literacy skills, how to keep track of what they're saving, and all of those things that we all know and need to learn and are important to know in life. Increased social assets. There's a lot of side benefits to these silk groups. It's not just about saving and lending, but the groups are primarily women. And the side benefits are that women often gain a lot of confidence from participating in these groups. They gain support from one another, and often they wind up taking greater leadership roles within their communities because of this gained confidence. Certain groups that are more advanced or maybe have gone through several cycles often have the opportunity to invest. They decide, hey, we've got this fund, and why don't we use it to invest in something that could increase our incomes? So some things that groups have done are, for example, buying livestock or starting a kitchen garden, which is a garden in their backyard with vegetables and fruits that they can sell. So they start small businesses oftentimes that then will really increase their incomes even more. Another big benefit is the fact that these groups are improving their own lives. They're not waiting for some big organization to come in with a handout. They're actually being empowered to be agents of their own change and improve their own lives instead of waiting for external support. And also, silk really allows the very poor to save, the very poorest to save, whereas many microfinance institutions only serve people with a bit more money who can actually, the microfinance institutions will approve their loans and think that they could actually pay it back. For very poor people, it's not possible. They're not going to be eligible. But with silk, even the poorest can save, since the groups decide how much they're going to save. They might save 5 cents every 2 weeks, or they might save $2, or they might save $10. It really depends on what their capacity is to save, but they decide that for themselves. And so silk, just to conclude, is just one of the examples of CRS programs and something that we're really trying to integrate into all of our programming, because it is such a way to sustain things and help people to be really independent and continue benefiting even after projects are gone and projects have ended. And so that's what I